Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:06. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Well, it was around the beginning of December that President Trump met with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago. Trudeau made the pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to bend the knee and kiss the ring and to meet with President Trump. In the wake of that, President Trump suggested that maybe Canada should become the 51st state. They would resolve all the issues about tariffs right away. Don't worry, you could be Governor Trudeau. That'd be awesome. And then he publicly told everyone that he said that those very things to Justin Trudeau, who was not happy about that. Justin Trudeau, just days later, was lamenting the fact that the United States elected Trump and not Kamala Harris, and he said that that amounted to an attack on women.
No, it shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
Well, Canadians were not impressed by any of this. In fact, Justin Trudeau is trailing right now. His party is by 20 points in Canada against the Conservatives. And that led to Justin Trudeau's announcement today that, well, he's out.
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Joining us now to explain what all of this means is Rob McLeod. He's a political commentator based out of Ottawa, Canada, and he's on the phone. Hello, Rob. Good to have you back with us, sir.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Well, this has been a whirlwind couple of weeks. First, Justin Trudeau goes and visits with President Trump. Then the two of them get into a public spat, and now he's announcing his departure. What's happening here?
Yeah, well, it's been an interesting few weeks and months for Trudeau and the Liberals. I know the visit down in Mar-a-Lago was certainly the capstone, but certainly a tumultuous last month for Trudeau, as he had a number of outspoken cabinet ministers and caucus members coming out against him, releasing letters to the public requesting that he step down in the coming weeks, and it's finally come to a head.
So I know that there was a finance minister by the name of Chrystia Freeland who just resigned this past month, and she was citing when she resigned, she was saying that Trudeau had unserious economic proposals in terms of how he was going to handle President Trump's threats of imposing 25% tariffs on Canada. Is it as simple as saying that Canadians don't believe Justin Trudeau is up to the task of leading the country and working with the United States?
Well, I think that's accurate to say, Vince, but I think also, hearing the dissent from within the party was enough to make some important decisions today. And I think a little bit of history that's somewhat interesting is, back in September 2021, the Liberals have been running with a minority government, being propped up, in fact, by the Democratic Socialist Party since 2022. Now, that agreement ended in September 24, and that's why now you're seeing this, these parliamentary games being played. That's why you're seeing some of the revolt in the caucus. That's why you've seen Deputy Prime Minister Freeland step down, and really has resulted in all of this.
Got it. So the coalition government that existed no longer does anymore, and he just doesn't have the support. What about the Canadian public? What do they think of all of this? I was citing some of that polling data showing that Trudeau's party is trailing the Conservatives by 20 points. That's a pretty big deficit.
Yeah, the polls are pretty stark when you look at it, and even looking at now in the wake of Mr. Trudeau's resignation, you can see that that the next leading candidate and next strongest candidate to succeed Trudeau would be Chrystia Freeland, but even her candidacy would have the party trailing Poilievre's Conservatives by about 15 points. So, regardless of who assumes the leadership position with the Liberals, it's not looking great for them.
Do people like Pierre Poilievre?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a sentiment that people do like Poilievre. I think his messaging has been quite clear and pointed. It addresses some of the most pressing issues I think that the Canadian populace is facing. But frankly, in Canada, we don't have a history of electing prime ministers in more than we do removing ones that we've kind of grown fed up with. So I think that's really what you're seeing here. And I think the Canadian population is ready for a change of color.
Do Canadians feel abused by the Trudeau regime? I think the last time you and I spoke was probably in relation to the trucker protests and what was happening in the country as civil liberties were being utterly trampled. Do Canadians remember that? Do they hold that against Trudeau?
They certainly do, and I think now what's more front of mind are some even more pressing issues. As you would have heard from Pierre Poilievre, we've seen some of the longest lines at food banks in recent memory. Homes are virtually unaffordable for the middle class. People are working hard and their dollars aren't going very far. So there's certainly a growing sentiment that people are ready for change in this country, and they certainly haven't forgot about what happened back during the trucker protests as well.
What about the remarks coming out of President Trump, including today, about this idea that Canada could be the 51st state of the United States? He posted today on Truth Social this afternoon, actually. Many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the United States, there would be no tariffs. Taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be. How do statements like that from President Trump go over in Canada?
Well, I think there's certainly a group of my colleagues who are strong Canadian patriots who might disagree with President Trump's suggestions, but I think what he did was put an appropriate amount of pressure on the Prime Minister to make some important decisions and to ultimately step down. The threat of tariffs has been something that's been clearly front of mind across all stripes of government, and has really done a lot to bring government together in talking about how we can do things to, improve defenses, strengthen our border, and those sorts of things. So it's certainly making, the pressures being felt.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. So, Rob, if you were to assess it today, you think Donald Trump was instrumental in this decision by Justin Trudeau to resign?
Yeah, I would say it's certainly a part of it. I mean, as I mentioned at the outset, there had been some, internal issues within the party. There have been some, revolt from within the caucus and within the cabinet. So, I think the outcome was inevitable, but maybe the remarks from President Trump had helped to accelerate things.
So if the Conservative Party were to take over in Canada, how would that change the Canadian government? What would be the priority?
Well, I think if the Conservatives were to take over and have a majority government, they would be given a pretty clear mandate from the Canadian population. As Pierre has been touting in his speaking sessions, what you've seen is a real focus on housing, affordability. There's clearly an immigration file that needs some serious attention. And Canada has really struggled, frankly, to move into this value-added, innovation-driven economy. We've seen 8 out of the last 9 quarters of negative GDP per capita growth. And Canada's ready for some change as far as its innovation and economic policy go.
And if Pierre Poilievre were to become prime minister, I assume that what would follow is a pretty close relationship between him and President Trump.
Yeah, I think there would be a number of issues that they could align on right out of the gates. I think, addressing crime, addressing border security, building up our presence in the Arctic, offering some protection on that northern flank. There are a ton of opportunities that a Poilievre government and the Trump government could connect on and ultimately collaborate on.
Amazing. Did you ever think we'd get to this point where Justin Trudeau would announce his resignation?
We all hope, but frankly, I wasn't so sure we'd ever see the day. So I know a lot of Canadians are happy to hear the news. We're excited to see what comes in the next little while, but honestly, we're not out of the woods yet. So Parliament is prorogued until March. That means no important business will really be getting done. And when government returns, it's not to say that there will be an election right away. The coalition between the New Democrats and the Liberals could see this extend out until fall, until we see a federal election in Canada.
Okay. And then finally, did Canada ever get to the bottom of whether or not Trudeau is Fidel Castro's son? Do we know?
I think they're still working on that, but it might be a priority for the Poilievre government as they transition into power.
I can't wait to find out the results of that investigation. I'm just going to assume it until that happens. Hey, thank you very much, Rob McLeod. Great to talk to you again. Really appreciate your time today, sir.
Thanks, Vince. Good to be with you.
There he is. Of course. That's Rob McLeod from Ottawa, Canada, talking to us about the big news today. Justin Trudeau announcing his resignation. I do have Pierre Poilievre. You may remember him from a video where he was very casually just smacking around a left-wing reporter while he was eating an apple. He's eating an apple during the entire conversation and dismantling the person who's attacking him.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological spectrum.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways, I don't
really believe in that.
Okay. A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so you must know somebody.
Okay.
He's eating an apple.
I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given, not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not sure. I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense. Okay. Common sense for a change. We're going to make common sense common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government. The guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades.
There's all that emotion-based populism that the reporter was ludicrously talking about.
I'm going to cap spending, cut waste, so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates. You'll want to be able to pay your mortgage again? You want to be able to afford rent? Then you have to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm the only one with a common sense plan that will bring back the buying power of your paycheck.
That's so weird. Why is he polling like 20 or 30 points ahead in Canada? I just can't figure it out. We got to bring in all the best experts to assess this. just casually dominating that dude, which is great. That's all-time great. All right, let's go to the phones. Rick is calling in from Reston, line 1. Hello, Rick. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Happy New Year, and thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Hey, I was listening to that effeminate poltroonish progeny of Castro complain about us having once again failed to elect our first president. I was scratching my head with my 30 years in the international affairs business and thinking, has Canada had a female prime minister, and I had to Google it. So they had one. In 1993, they elected a woman named Kim Campbell, and 4.5 months later, they defenestrated her, and that was the extent of the head of government being a female in Canada. So
wow.
It's just another irritating thing that little man can throw out there, and I'm happy that we, since I kind of consider them to be cousins, are soon to be rid of the guy.
Isn't it the most false thing ever when you get a dude? Didn't he dress up in blackface at one point? Justin Trudeau. There's all the photos of him. He's wearing a turban and he's dressed in blackface. I think he said, didn't he say he was like Aladdin? Or I don't even know what the outfits are supposed to be. But
I think he's done cross-dressing. He's done blackface. He's done big feather headdress, Native American stuff. He's quite the master thespian, Mr. Trudeau is.
Yeah, the master of disguise. That guy is unbelievable. And so, he's scolding us. He says that we're not we're attacking women by not placing Kamala Harris in charge. I don't know about you, Rick, but I feel like the odds of women being in a better place with Donald Trump in office are way higher than if Kamala Harris were to become president.
It's stunning if you look at the entry statistics into medical school, law school for the last, I think, 15 years now. You've seen an upside down female to male entry ratio. Law schools are now, I believe, in the high 50s favoring females. Medical schools, I think, are in the mid 50s or maybe north of that.
Yes.
So I think we're about 30 years past that problem. But that's okay. I married a lawyer, so what do I know?
Yeah. Well, Rick, thank you. That's all smart points. And thank you for that bit of trivia. That yes, they had a Canadian prime minister that was a woman for just a couple of months. So that's fascinating. Back in 1993. Thank you, Rick, for that. As Justin Trudeau describes himself as a feminist, he says, "I will always be a feminist." Good for you. You should be a feminist who has no power. So thank you for announcing your resignation today. And President Trump advocating that they become the 51st state. Also, President Trump's interest in taking over Greenland, buying Greenland, hasn't abated. He's still as interested in that, expanding the American empire so that we can control all of North America. Is that the plan? It seems like he's on track for it. We will see. He also wants to retake the Panama Canal, so his ambitions are growing. And there's a lot of chatter right now about the fact that Don Jr. is headed to Greenland in the next 24 hours, I guess. He's traveling to Greenland, and everybody wants to know, what is that about? What is Don Jr. up to? Although I did see some reporting today that he's not meeting with any government officials or anything. So, but he is going to Greenland. He is going to Greenland. Maybe he's just sizing it up, doing a little home tour. Maybe it's an open house for Don Jr. He's going to go through, report back to his dad about what he saw. Could be fun. Hey, coming up on the program, we're going to talk about what to expect out of that Trump administration as the left is trying its best to stop him before he even gets back, including that radical judge in New York, Juan Merchan, who is trying to throw every roadblock he can at President Trump. We've got all the new details on that, all ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 5:35, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today, as always, at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Before we dive back into some of the political news of the day, I've got, last night, apparently, the Golden Globes. I believe that the Golden Globes, that's the Hollywood Foreign Press, right, that makes these decisions about who receives these awards. It's known as the single most corrupt award show on the planet, where basically the studios, they just straight up buy the awards and everyone pretends like it's authentic. So every year you get that. But occasionally they've got a host who comes in and stirs things up. And last night they had a comedian called Nikki Glasser, who I've heard of before. I haven't watched her or consumed her comedy before, but I did watch some of the clips from last night, and honestly, some of it was really good. She was mocking the people in the room for being unable to tell the American people who to vote for one.
I am not here to roast you tonight. I want you to know that, and how could I, really? You're all so famous, so talented, so powerful. I mean, you could really do anything. Except tell the country who to vote for, but it's okay. You'll get them next time.
Also, she didn't stray away from the fact that Hollywood has all these unbelievable, disgraceful sex scandals going on right now.
I really think this is like going to be a very memorable evening, and maybe not even in the way that you think. I predict 5 years from now, when you're watching old clips of this show on YouTube, you'll see someone in one of the crowd shots and you'll go, oh my God, that was before they caught that guy. Like, we could be making history tonight and like, we don't even know with who. Like,
she took a couple shots at people like P. Diddy and the disgusting baby oil allegations about that guy. She went for it last night. Also, she had this moment where she kind of halfway through the show came back and was reviewing all of the people that the award recipients were thanking. And she noticed that none of them had thanked God.
All right, cast and crew are leading the way with 11 mentions. Moms are holding strong with 3 shout-outs. God, creator of the universe, 0 mentions. And Mario Lopez, host of Access Hollywood, 1. All right. No surprise in this godless town.
She went for it, didn't she? God, creator of the universe, with 0 mentions. Phenomenal. Really, really, really good stuff. So anyway, that's at least the clips that I was consuming today. I really enjoyed some of those moments. Speaking of awards, phony award shows. Did you see President Biden this weekend? They rolled him out to give presidential medals of freedom, which at this point have no value whatsoever, to the ruling class, which just got so soundly defeated in this election. All of his favorite celebrities that Joe Biden and company want to meet, and all of the lefties who've given so much money and wield so much influence over our establishment, all there to receive medals from Joe Biden, consolation prizes, in other words, for having lost the election. And the list was really a who's who of left-wing lunatics. Let's see here. Presidential Medals of Freedom. The New York Times was really upset about all of this. And they weren't upset about the recipients. They were upset that the recipients aren't going to have power anymore. Among those receiving the award, Hillary Clinton received a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Yeah, because that's her track record, freedom. She's really interested in supporting that. Robert F. Kennedy, not the living Robert F. Kennedy, the assassinated Robert F. Kennedy. The New York Times is partly interpreting that as maybe a brushback against Donald Trump and RFK Jr. RFK Sr.'s daughter, Kerry Kennedy, was there to receive the award on behalf of her late father. Mitt Romney was there in order to receive an award for George Romney. Again, the only reason Mitt Romney is there, the White House is trying to make a big scene out of all of this. They just gave a big prize to Liz Cheney last week. Another medal. You got a medal. Thanks for your service. Who else? Oh, Magic Johnson. Lionel Messi received an award, the soccer player. Messi didn't even show up. He didn't even bother. They just said it was a scheduling conflict, which means he didn't want to be there. So Messi decided to skip it. George Soros, who the left pretends wields no influence whatsoever in their party, received a medal for all of the influence that he's had over their party. all of the money. His son, Alex Soros, there to receive that award. It was also crazy. Biden pretended like this was a great honor to receive these medals.
For the final time as president, I have the honor of bestowing the Medal of Freedom on our nation's highest civilian honor on a group of extraordinary, truly extraordinary people who gave their sacred effort.
They gave their sacred effort
to shape the culture and the cause of America.
Oh, boy.
So let me just say to each of you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all you've done to help this country.
Yeah. Among the recipients as well, Michael J. Fox was there. Magic Johnson was there. David Rubenstein, the big donor, money guy. We've got Bono, the singer, the U2 singer, receiving. Some of this was just like, hey, who do we want to meet? Who do we want to have stop by the White House so we can meet them? Let's just write them up for an award, give them a medal. And they tried it with Lionel Messi. It didn't work. He just refused to show up. He had a scheduling conflict. Our Our friend, old WMAL colleague, Mary Catherine Ham, was on Fox News Sunday reacting to the news that Hillary Clinton received an award. And she said, this seems appropriate.
And I'm going to surprise everybody by saying that I think it's good that Hillary Clinton got this award, because not a lot of novelists and fiction writers get the award, and yet the Hillary Clinton campaign financed and created one of the greatest works of fiction in living memory in the Steele dossier. And despite it being total fiction, it enthralled the press and the intel community and federal law enforcement for years. And so I applaud her for that work of fiction. I'm excited about the work she does in the future on her totally fictional presidency.
I was going to go somewhere else, but I got to let Marie say something.
You really came in hot this morning. I love it. My friend Mary Catherine
I just want to applaud her.
Brought the 2025 energy. All presidents do.
That was Marie Harf trying to figure out a way to rescue the fact that Hillary Clinton had just been devastated by Mary Catherine Ham. And she's right. What has Hillary Clinton done for freedom? Hillary Clinton is an enemy of freedom, a presidential medal of freedom. Hillary Clinton is a full-blown election denier. Hillary Clinton resents democracy. Hillary Clinton hates the American people. You can run the best campaign and you can still have the election stolen from you, says Hillary Clinton, who blamed everybody but herself. Everybody but herself and her own failure as the reason that she lost that 2016 election. And in the meantime, they were playing, as the Clintons always do, the most underhanded, dirty, disgusting politics that you can possibly summon. That dossier, remember that? Mary Catherine's right to bring that up. It was just it was a compendium of invented rumors about Donald Trump that was laundered through the intelligence community and served as the basis to try and both stop Trump's presidency and then, when that didn't work, to stymie Trump's presidency. The same dirty tricks, always, with this woman, Hillary Clinton. And yet there she is receiving a Medal of Freedom, which again means that distinction has no value anymore, at least when the left is distributing it. So there's Joe Biden this weekend just giving away medals of freedom to all the people who control him and his party. That's what's happening. It's like, who's pulling his strings? I don't know. Look around the room of the people he just gave medals to, getting their consolation prizes for losing the election. And so the New York Times is upset about all of this. I mentioned that they're moaning that this group, composed of people like George Soros and Hillary Clinton, is not going to have as much power anymore. They really are. They wrote this. On Saturday, Mr. Biden awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom to 18 people, including some of the brightest lights of the old guard that Mr. Trump wants to tear down. In doing so, the 82-year-old president is sending an unmistakable message of support for a democratic order he has said is threatened by Mr. Trump's reelection. You got that? So the New York Times is upset that this group is, quote, threatened by Mr. Trump's reelection, that George Soros is threatened by Trump, that Hillary Clinton and her power is threatened by Trump. That's what they're upset about. It's just fantastic. Oh, I left out Bill Nye, the science guy. He apparently also received a Medal of Freedom, just to show you how ridiculous the whole thing was. They're just giving medals away to anybody. Bill Nye, the science guy, who was last seen in a tube television being rolled out on a cart in front of grade schoolers in the 90s. That's the last time we heard from him. Actually, unfortunately, we've heard from him beyond that. In the cable news era, we've heard from him. But he got a Presidential Medal of Freedom as well. Who else got Presidential Medals of Freedom? Oh, they also gave Presidential Medals of Freedom to an abortion enthusiast. Because, I don't know if you knew this, Joe Biden is a really devout Catholic. Really, really devout. So he signed off on giving a medal to a woman called Mary Bonato, Mary Bonato is an attorney and a gay marriage activist who did receive a Medal of Freedom as well. But it was Eleanor Smeal who led the national pro-abortion campaign, routinely attacked the Catholic Church for its positions on abortion, And the White House announcement on this subject said that the Presidential Citizens Medal is awarded to citizens of the United States of America who have performed exemplary deeds of service for their country or their fellow citizens. President Biden believes these Americans are bonded by their common decency, and commitment to serving others. The country is better because of their dedication and sacrifice. This woman, Eleanor Smeal, is the president of the Feminist Majority Foundation, of which Justin Trudeau is surely a member, and the former president of the National Organization for Women. And during that time, she led the first national pro-abortion protest in the country back in 1986. A national protest against children back in 1986. And now she's receiving a Presidential Medal of Freedom for all of her great work. She did form, that effort has resulted in nearly 1 million babies a year being killed in the United States. And President Biden, the devout Catholic, said, you know what that deserves? A Presidential Medal of Freedom. Just to give you a sense of how upside down everything is. One more thing about Biden this weekend. Biden was asked at one point by reporters whether or not Donald Trump is still a threat to, quote, democracy. And he started cursing at the reporters. And he started losing it. And the truth is, he was ranting until the White House staff had to escort him out of the room. That's the state of the presidency with Joe Biden. Here he is.
Do you still believe he's a threat to democracy?
I think what he did was a genuine threat to democracy. My being the oldest president, I know more world leaders than any one of you ever met in your whole damn life.
All right. Why are you so grumpy? What's going on? So Joe Biden escorted out of the room on Sunday. The White House said, it's time to get him out of here. He lashed out at reporters Sunday evening while rambling about his administration, the border crisis, and President-elect Donald Trump. He was rambling about white supremacy and threats to democracy. He was talking about his Irish ancestors. He falsely claimed that when he became president, the border crossings went down. False. He literally just is inventing stuff again. And said that Donald Trump stopped the bill that would have secured our border because it would have made Trump look bad if the border became secure under Biden. So he wouldn't allow that to happen. That's Biden once again telling the same lie that the left has been telling now for months. As far as that border is concerned, Tom Homan was on CBS this weekend on the Sunday Show with Margaret Brennan. And Margaret asked him, what are you going to do about countries who refuse to take back their own citizens? So when Trump and company start deporting everybody, what are you going to do about these countries who absolutely refuse? And Tom Homan gives a great answer here. He says, look, President Trump has a proven track record of dealing with countries like that.
But then where do you send people? Because some of these countries like Venezuela don't accept deportations right now. Mexico's president indicated her country might be willing to receive non-Mexican migrants who are deported. How does that work? Does the U.S. pay Mexico to then ship those people off somewhere else?
Well, first of all, we got President Trump coming in the Oval Office, and he's proven during his first administration his leadership on illegal immigration was a game changer because, for instance, El Salvador wouldn't take back MS-13 members when I was the ICE director. It took President Trump 48 hours to get El Salvador to take back their criminal aliens into their prisons. And Mexico didn't want to do the Remain in Mexico program, but President Trump was able to get Remain in Mexico established in Mexico. He was able to get Mexico put military in their southern and northern border. President Trump's a strong president. This administration has not forced these countries to take them back. And we have what we call a third safe country. We already have countries talking about taking back people from other countries. If for instance, Venezuela don't want to take their people back, there's other ways we can do it. There's other countries that be willing to accept them. We're hoping that President Trump will work with Venezuela and like he did with Mexico and El Salvador and get these countries taken back. If they don't, they're still going to be deported. They're just going to be deported to a different country. We're not going to be held up on removing public safety trust in this country. We got to put the safety of the American people first. We've had too many young women murdered and raped and burned alive by members of Venezuelan gangs. They need to be a priority under this administration. They're going to be a priority starting day one, and they will be deported.
Yeah, plus also, maybe he didn't bring it up, but I will. Think about Elon Musk. He's really close to President Trump now. Maybe we could send some of these illegals to the moon. At least just somewhere else. Just deport them. It's 5:51 though. It's possible. He wants to do a Mars mission. Maybe they can be voluntold. You're going to Mars. Unless you go back to your home country, you're going to be on that first Mars mission. Good luck. Wacky Juan Merchan, the judge up in New York, is desperate to tag President Trump as a, quote, convicted felon. He has scheduled sentencing in the bookkeeping case for January 10th. And the breaking news this hour is that Judge Merchan has denied President Trump's request to delay the sentencing in that case. And that's what he did that at the request of Alvin Bragg, the ridiculous prosecutor in New York. This is all just a witch hunt, of course. Here is Scott Jennings reacting in the last 24 hours or so on CNN. He's great. Scott's great. To how ridiculous Juan Merchan and company have been.
This case should have never been brought. It was brought by a partisan prosecutor. If Donald Trump weren't Donald Trump and he weren't running for president, this case would never have been charged with felonies this way. This complete and total sham. It's a kangaroo court. Of course he's not going to be punished for it, because the only reason they ever did it was so they could try to call him a convicted felon during the election, which they, of course, did. And then the American people soundly rejected this naked partisan politics. If you're watching New York City news right now, you got people being burned on the subway, folks running around with all kinds of violence in their past and not in jail, and the criminal justice system is being used on Donald Trump. Take a hard look at who you're electing. It's Alvin Bragg and this judge. These are the kinds of people, and their priorities are totally misplaced.
Big time, big time. And America is more chaotic as a result of all of it. It's really, really amazing. I leave you with this. Kamala Harris today certifying the election for President Trump.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris...
I mean, deeply satisfying. Deeply, deeply satisfying. You know what else is satisfying? The great one, Mark Levin. His show is up next here on WMAL.